Okay, our next appointment is of Nicolas Ucci, Vice Carol Grant, as Commissioner of the Office of Energy Resources. And we have Mr. Ucci with us remotely. Welcome. It's nice to see you. Unlike us, you are without a mask, and we are all masked.
Yes. Well, thank you for that.
But if you would like to address the committee before we have a few questions for you, the floor is yours.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Getting a little bit of feedback. There we go.
You sound good here.
Good. Well, good afternoon, Chairperson Sosnowski and members of the committee. I am truly honored to join you today as Governor Raimondo's nominee for Commissioner of the Rhode Island Office of Energy Resources. I've had the privilege of testifying before this committee in the past and working with many of you in navigating the complex energy and environmental challenges and opportunities facing our state. I am grateful for your leadership in this arena and for your stewardship in leading the Ocean State on its journey toward a cleaner, more affordable, and reliable energy future. OER works closely with state policymakers and private and public stakeholders to design, develop, and implement innovative clean energy programs and solutions for all Rhode Islanders, while spurring economic and job growth opportunities across the state's burgeoning clean energy economy, consistent with broader statutory and policy goals. Since joining OER in 2013, I have been committed to expanding the state's clean energy portfolio and reducing greenhouse gas emissions while balancing consumer affordability, energy price stability, system reliability, and economic growth. I have 12 years of experience in the energy field, having also served with the Public Utilities Commission, and prior to that, served 6 years in progressively responsible roles at the Department of Labor and Training. I am proud of my role in helping lead state efforts, resulting in last year's approval of the 400 megawatt Revolution Wind offshore wind farm, projected to result in $91 million in energy savings, more than 800 construction jobs, 50 permanent jobs, and $40 million in port investments, all while producing enough carbon-free energy to power 270,000 Rhode Island homes, or 1/4 of state demand. By the way, that outcome was made possible by a 2014 law, the Affordable Clean Energy Security Act, which this committee worked on, supported, and ultimately it enabled the very joint clean energy procurement activity with other states that led to that Rev Wind project. Most recently, my team and I delivered a comprehensive assessment on heating sector decarbonization, and I am now leading efforts that will help Rhode Island meet 100% of its electricity demand with renewables by 2030, setting a nation-leading pace. Thanks to the support of this committee, the General Assembly, and Governor Raimondo, Rhode Island has already seen a 9-fold increase in its renewable energy portfolio since 2016. The initiatives that you have seeded, such as the Renewable Energy Growth Program, community solar, energy efficiency, utility-scale renewable contracting, and many others, are connecting Rhode Island families and businesses with more sustainable energy solutions and mitigating greenhouse gas and other emissions harming our communities. OER plays an important role in ensuring that these programs and other clean energy initiatives effectively advance the state's energy and environmental policy goals while driving investment and job growth. I am so proud of the work that my OER colleagues and I have accomplished, whether expanding cost-effective energy efficiency programs to New Shoreham and solar to the community school, supporting EV charging infrastructure in Barrington and community solar in Burrillville, in North Smithfield, launching community-based solarized campaigns across the Quidnick Island and Jamestown, providing incentives to Narragansett for high-efficiency LED streetlights, or a grant to a Kingston-based school for major building energy retrofits, and, like in East Providence, supporting the transition of old landfills and other brownfield sites into revenue-producing renewable installations. Investments like this are happening all across the Ocean State, at homes, businesses, and public and private sector institutions. They are employing our neighbors, supporting local vendors, and fostering supply chains. They are helping stabilize, if not reduce, energy costs for homes and commercial entities, and they are shrinking carbon footprints. Your continued support for the programs and policies driving these success stories is vital, and I look forward to continuing our work together. In my 18 years of state service, I have conducted myself ethically and with professionalism, grounded in a deep appreciation of the uniqueness of our state and her people. I am proud to be a native son, born in Knightsville, raised in Warwick, and now residing in Coventry. I attended Warwick Public Schools and am a proud graduate of the University of Rhode Island with highest distinction, earning a master's degree, dual bachelor's degrees, and a graduate certification. I am honored to serve on the Bishop's Committee of my small church in Coventry, having been elected by my peers, and I coach Little League Baseball in my community. In recent years, I have been blessed with the opportunity to view our shared future through the eyes of my own children, Juliana, a precocious and resolute 4-year-old, and Lorenzo, my brilliant first grader and future senator, I might add. The work we do today to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, to foster innovative electricity, transportation, and heating solutions for our neighbors, to stabilize energy costs over the long term, and support homegrown jobs in dynamic new industries, and to build healthier and more resilient communities in the face of climate change, will have a lasting impact on the Rhode Island that they inherit and that all future generations will inherit. That fact, that reality, drives me each and every day. I am firmly committed to do my part in helping lead Rhode Island to a sustainable and affordable energy future. And in doing so, working with our valued stakeholders and all of you to ensure that the benefits of that future reach all Ocean State families and businesses. Thank you for your time and consideration. I am so deeply appreciative and wish you good health in the days ahead.
Thank you very much, Nick. I just want to share with the committee members that I've had the privilege to work with Nick way back when, it seems like now, when we were initially working on solar issues in Block Island, and then also through the wind farm establishment and so forth. And I have to say, first of all, going back and forth to New Shoreham on the boat sometimes can be challenging. But you always rose to that challenge, and even the times that I couldn't make it there, the folks on the island said how you would always answer the questions. You were always had the expertise and the knowledge that they needed to move forward on their renewable energy projects, and I thank you for that, and I wanted the committee to know that. I always found, I think at the time, you would spend a lot of time with New Shoreham, a lot of time away from home working on these issues, and I admired not only the amount of knowledge you had, but your work ethic. And you wouldn't stop until the job was done. And that can be difficult working in an island environment, and I truly appreciate it, and so do the people of New Shoreham for your dedication.
Thank you.
I do have a couple of questions. We have received letters in strong support of your nomination. We've also received some emails and letters in opposition. And I would really like to ask a couple of questions, a lot like I asked Mr. Gurutowski on the idea of energy issues, climate change, crisis, and how it affects folks that are on the low-income spectrum, living in poverty, if you will, trying to make ends meet, and in your position, how you see how you could help these folks going through social injustice and climate change crisis that we're going through, and also it just compounds it with COVID-19. So I don't know if you could answer some of those questions.
Thank you, Chairperson. I absolutely share the concerns of our community and stakeholders and those that you just expressed relative to the utility cost burdens facing our low and moderate income citizens. This is a challenging issue, as Ron Gurutowski mentioned, and one especially important in light of the economic hardships facing our people now in an economy severely impacted by COVID. Related to OER and the work that I've helped conduct, we've worked hard to support competitive market procurements that secure large-scale renewables which reduce costs for all consumers, but also deliver other positive environmental and economic externalities to our communities. As I noted, the Rev offshore wind project is projected to reduce energy costs for all Rhode Island consumers by $91 million over the next 20 years. And this past March, we secured approval for a 50-megawatt solar contract that's projected to save another $30 million over the next 2 decades. So broadly speaking, our general efforts, I think, are oriented toward trying to reduce and stabilize energy costs for all Rhode Islanders, but particularly the most vulnerable among us, in light of many other challenges that our families and businesses are facing each and every day. Our office also supported in the last major national grid rate case a multi-year rate plan that included a total electric bill discount of 25 to 30%, which Mr. Garatowski mentioned in his remarks. And importantly, and for consumers receiving benefits through Medicaid, general public assistance, and our family independence program, there was an additional 5% discount off the total bill provided as part of that settlement. Moreover, the state's LIHEAP Enhancement Fund is collecting about $7.5 million annually, leveraged with some $17 million or so in federal LIHEAP assistance, which is helping reduce energy burdens for the most vulnerable. The other focus area for OER has been to improve the way we deliver energy efficiency services to that community. We work very closely with National Grid, our stakeholders, and the CAP agencies to foster delivery of no-cost energy audits, free installation of energy-saving measures in the home, and reducing capital barriers for those customers so that they can go ahead and make the sorts of investments that, of course, reduce carbon, which is vitally important to us, and those communities in particular, where many of these customers are located and bear, frankly, the brunt of the effects of climate change from a health perspective, but can have immediate impact on reducing energy costs at the home. And we continue to try and help those programs evolve and deliver more efficient services. So our work is never done. We're working on these issues each and every day, and support the leadership that this committee has provided in its passage of least cost procurement laws and renewable laws that give us the tools and enable us to help low and moderate income consumers.
Thank you, Nick. I appreciate you bringing up some of the different programs that are ongoing with Office of Energy Resources for those that are in need. And some of those I knew were there, but I'm glad that you refreshed my memory, especially on the ones with the Medicaid and the folks that need assistance, that additional 5% discount that you helped to put in place. I appreciate that. So any other questions, comments from committee members? Senator Conley?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So thank you so much for that presentation, and thank you for the work that you've already done at OER. As you may know, I'm a fan of the work that OER does, and I think it's very critical to the state of Rhode Island. Having said that, if you had to identify sort of the one or two most important goals of priority as OER goes forward, what would you tell the committee is most important to you, as part of the core mission, and how you see that core mission developing going forward?
Thank you, Senator, and thank you for your leadership. In particular, the constituents of your district should be proud of the efforts you've made to expand clean energy solutions across the state. So thank you for that. I'd like to give one key example, and that relates to the heating sector transformation report, which we just issued. We worked collaboratively with the Division of Public Utilities and Carriers on that, and many stakeholders. In fact, so this committee knows, we held a series of 3 public workshops over the past year, and at each workshop, one of which was virtual due to COVID, we had 70 or more public attendees, which is a phenomenal outpouring of support and interest in a very complex but vitally important issue. And so I want to thank our stakeholders for their input there. as part of that work, we've done such a great job in Rhode Island, I think, of not only building new energy, a new industry and technologies and fostering renewable growth. We're at the point where we can talk about acceleration up to 100%, as the governor has challenged us to do, and the policies and programs that you've put in place are going to enable us to hit that goal, I strongly believe. But it's not enough just to make our electricity supply green. We also have to turn our attention to the other now dominant sources of greenhouse gas emissions in our economy, namely heating, or thermal, as some of us call it, and transportation. And so we spent the last several months doing a really deep dive, pursuant to a governor's executive order, on what it looks like to transform Rhode Island's heating sector in industrial heat processes to a fully decarbonized sector by 2050. And we came up with some really interesting policy recommendations and a framework to help guide future policy, which will likely come through your committee. One is that we think it's too soon to sort of pick winners and losers. There are a lot of potential carbon-free solutions in the marketplace today, but in Rhode Island and throughout New England, we have a real diversity of end-use fuels that our consumers use at our homes and businesses. We are predominantly natural gas, but we still have more than 30% of customers on home heating oil, including myself here in Coventry, and propane users, and some wood, and some who have already electrified. And so one solution may not fit all, may not fit each individual customer or business, may not be economic to that customer, depending on their own personal situation or the age of their existing infrastructure. And so we've got to think creatively and strategically around some of those constraints, but also move the entire system toward a decarbonized future. And there are a lot of ways that we can do that. And I look forward to working with all of you and thinking through some of those solutions. One is to begin to decarbonize all of our fuels. So we're doing that on the electric sector, and the governor's challenged us to get to 100% within a decade. But we can also look at utilizing other biofuels and bio-blending in natural gas, for example, to begin to reduce the carbon content of our existing fuels as our system transforms. So that's one recommendation. We're also going to have a lot of, I think, there's going to be a lot of challenges. This is going to be costly up front, and we've got to work together to implement incentive programs and low to no cost financing opportunities to enable customers to connect with these decarbonized solutions, whether it's replacing your oil burner with a high efficiency air source heat pump, something I did myself, sort of as a guinea pig last year to go through the process of insulating my home and installing this carbon-free opportunity that uses electricity to heat and with the added benefit of cooling my home, something I didn't have before. That solution worked for me, but may not work for my neighbor who has a brand new oil furnace. And his economics and his opportunity will be a little different than mine. And we've got to think about how do we solve that, not just for a neighborhood here or there, but for all Rhode Islanders. So I think our opportunities and also challenges in the heating sector are really should be at the forefront of our efforts over the next decade. There are, of course, as this committee knows, discussions underway to look at comprehensive opportunities to reduce carbon in the transportation sector, and we will certainly be a part of that brainstorming. But I think in the heating sector, we have an opportunity to, again, marry decarbonization with economic growth and job creation opportunities, and I'm really excited about tackling that with all of you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Connolly. Thank you, Mr. Ucci. Senator Oya has some questions.
Thank you for being here in front of us, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you again. I wanted to follow up actually on Chairman Connolly's question with regard to thinking about what we can do moving forward, how we can accelerate our move off of relying on fossil fuels. Specifically, I'm curious about your thoughts on our energy efficiency programs in Rhode Island. I know it's an area where we're a national leader. I know that it has long-term impact of cost savings on ratepayers. And that, again, we do lead in this area, but I'm wondering if you have some thoughts on how we can continue to improve on that work.
Thank you so much, Senator. I appreciate the question. Absolutely. Energy efficiency and least cost procurement is foundational to our clean energy economy and future. It represents the lowest cost means of reducing energy consumption and costs for all customers, residents and businesses alike. And it's the only resource at our disposal that results in downward pressure on every component of the utility bill. That includes reduced use of the distribution and interstate transmission system, lower supply costs, lower capacity costs than these customers would otherwise pay for. And obviously there are a myriad of other benefits associated with these investments. They can improve public health by reducing carbon emissions and other pollutants from traditional fossil fuel-based generation, improve the comfort and quality of our building stock, and right now represent, frankly, 6 out of 10 of our clean energy jobs in the state, which is now around 16,300 jobs, and about a 77% growth rate since 2014. Now, COVID will obviously have some impacts on that, hopefully in just a short and midterm. But I suspect that least cost procurement will come back before this committee in one form or another. It's currently scheduled to sunset over the next few years, and based upon the modeling and the analysis that we've conducted for a variety of projects, I do not believe we can achieve our greenhouse gas emission reduction goals without sustained support for least cost procurement and energy efficiency programs. It's not just that Rhode Island is a leader and we know how to do this, but it's critical. It's critical to being able to match supply and demand over the long term and avoid having to pay for potentially more expensive energy solutions to meet what will likely be growing demand as we electrify heating and transportation sectors.
All set? Thank you. Senator Valverde?
Thank you. So as you mentioned, the governor has laid out a very ambitious plan to bring Rhode Island to 100% renewable energy in 10 years. So I'm wondering how you intend to help Rhode Island meet those goals, specifically by supporting residential scale renewable energy installations, as well as the larger commercial projects.
Well, thank you, Senator, for that question. Let me talk a little bit about how we intend to conduct our work over the next several months under this initiative, and some of the things that I expect to come from it. We have contracted with an expert energy market consultant to support us in doing comprehensive cost-benefit analysis that will look at a variety of portfolios of clean energy resources to make up 100% of our deliveries. And in doing so, we'll account for load growth, as I mentioned earlier, that will stem from the electrification of our heating and transportation sectors. And we'll have the opportunity to sort of test the impacts of a variety of portfolios of resources that will make up that mix. And we may do some bookends and look at some extremes to give us, some goalposts. But ultimately, Rhode Island's clean energy future will include a mix of homegrown, local resources and utility scale resources that can be developed potentially elsewhere in New England based upon land use policies, but certainly off our coast in leveraging the opportunities that offshore wind is providing our great state. So we have to date continued to be supportive of the incredible work that you and your committee have done in expanding renewable energy growth program, in looking at community solar. We're working internally to also ensure that these programs over the long term remain sustainable from a couple of vantage points. One is economically, that as these programs expand and renewable energy accelerates, we want to ensure that both participants and non-participants in that energy in that energy future can benefit from those installations, but also that it's affordable on the utility bill. These investments produce long-term benefits, environmental, economic benefits, and so forth, but often have some short-term costs, and we've got to be strategic about that. And then also, I think it's important that we create policies and programs and incentives such that we can sustainably cite this accelerated renewable energy growth over the long term. And I know that you are all aware of the tension between preserving open space and protected lands in forests with the need to rapidly accelerate and expand our clean energy portfolio if we are going to hit our greenhouse gas emission reductions. And Rhode Island stakeholders and the Department of Environmental Management and others have done some fantastic work in looking at this challenge. And we've taken it on ourselves at OER to start to think strategically about how we can leverage the programs and tools at our disposal to try and incentivize investment in the areas where we want solar development and perhaps away from maybe areas where it's not so ideal. Of course, ultimately, the siting decisions are left with the communities, but we have always been available and have provided technical support to our cities and towns whenever asked, and will continue to do so.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Are there any further questions or comments for Mr. Ucci? No? In that case, I would entertain a motion. We have a motion by President Ruggiero.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to move the advice and consent of Nicolas Ucci, Vice Carol J. Grant as Commissioner of the Office of Energy Resources.
Is there a second? Leader McCaffrey? All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? And congratulations. We will recommend that the full Senate grant advice and consent to your appointment. We look forward to continuing working with you, Nick, and best of luck to you.
I'm honored. Thank you very much, and I look forward to working with all of you. Thanks.